Review. Book one one is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Retiring Right Smart Steps for Exceeding Corporate America. No other than Mr. Jake Falcon.
Thank you, Daniel.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Jake. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Absolutely, Daniel. Again, thank you for having me on your show. My name is Jake Falcon. I'm the founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. We're a wealth management practice located in Kansas City. And I'm really excited to talk about my book today.
Mr. Jake Falcon, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. How do high earners know when it's time to walk away from peak earnings for freedom?
Ooh, you start with a fireball, don't you? So
Indeed.
it comes down to purpose. And so ultimately, we have to decide when do we want to no longer trade our time doing something we may or may not enjoy anymore? So I always tell my clients, like, look, if you're a high earner and you love what you do for a living, you love your boss, you love your employees, whatever it is that you do, maybe you don't need to retire at 65 or 60 or 55. Maybe you work till your 70s or 80s. But really, Daniel, it starts with purpose. So you got to check in with that purpose and see, what do you really want to trade those minutes, hours, days, weeks, months doing? And what does that boil down to? And that's what I actually start off in my book. That's the very beginning part of my book is where I talk about purpose. It's very important.
Mr. Jake, what's your process for helping executives shed their corporate self before retirement to avoid essential crisis?
Yeah, thank you for that question, actually. And we actually, as men, typically struggle with this the most because a lot of our identity and our ego and our psyche is wrapped up in our profession and our career. And so I really challenge my clients to talk about, what are they doing at Tuesday at 10 a.m. if they're not working? And what does that look like? And if their spouse works or if they're married or not married, I also want to check in with them and say, hey, is he or she going to drive you nuts if they're at home all the time? Like, what is the plan here? But you're right. These executives that we work with, it's very difficult to transition from, working 40, 60 hours a week, always being plugged in, managing people, working on projects, having purpose in their career to being a grandpa and that's it, or going fishing or playing golf. And so we work really hard on defining what that next phase of their life looks like. We try to help them get excited about it because it's scary and it's okay to be fearful, but you want to check in with that before you make the decision, not after. I've seen far too many people struggle after. And so we want to make sure we talk about that before they retire.
What's the number one emotional oversight people make when retiring, and how do you fix it?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that people are fearful of running out of money. And ultimately, they could have $10 million and still be scared of running out of money, believe it or not. And so we work with the financial plan solves a lot of that fear. And so what we do is we build out a plan and we run many projections. We can tell someone what their lifetime tax bill is going to look like, which is not always a fun conversation, but we can show them that. And we can talk about their trajectory and how much money they want to leave or not leave their kids. And so planning really helps alleviate some of those fears and gives clients confidence to spend because there's another switch going on here. You go from building and saving and earning a nest egg, right? A sizable amount of money to no more accumulation. And now you're decumulating that account. It's a very difficult switch for many people to make. And I'm a chartered retirement planning counselor, so I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of these conversations. And so it pays to work with somebody that can help guide you through what that transition looks like. It's a big one
Def-
though, the fear.
Definitely fear, 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 people. And Mr. Jake, let's talk about financial mechanics. Why do conventional withdrawal strategies fail modern retirees, and what is your alternative?
Yeah, I don't like this. A lot of retirees will subscribe to this 4% withdrawal rule where, they get $1 million, they're pulling out 40,000 a year, no matter if the market goes up, down, or sideways. Then maybe they get Social Security, maybe they get a pension, and that's what they live off of. The reason that fails is that it doesn't take into account different market cycles. And actually, there's something called a Monte Carlo analysis, which is 1,000 different market rates of returns. It shows you your probability of your plan working. I actually don't subscribe to any of that. I don't believe in any of that stuff. And I really try to peel back the onion, and we get very direct and very simple. In fact, at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we don't use investment products. We literally will buy individual stocks and bonds and trade options for approved clients. And we build out an income generating portfolio designed to hopefully weather market cycles and also produce the income that clients need to live off of without depleting their principal. So I think far too many advisors are using products and using cookie cutter rules when advising clients. And I think that's a recipe for stress and potential disaster.
Very well said, Mr. Jake. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. And how do you calculate true medical expenses that catch retirees off guard?
Yeah, so you've got to be careful with that. So, once someone attains the age of 65, they are eligible for Medicare. However, all of Medicare is not free. So, we want to build in those costs into the plan. Many of our clients, Daniel, will retire before 65. So, we want to make sure that we bridge that gap with an appropriate budget and cash flow to weather those health costs. And so, other than taxes, health costs are a big piece of retirement planning. And so you just got to factor it in, whatever it is. If it's 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month for the health insurance, we got to budget it in. You got to have it. You don't want something major to happen and you not be covered. So we just want to factor that in. We want to work with an independent health insurance broker to help them shop. We usually refer it out. We don't like to do that in house. And so we'll refer that out so that they can get a good health insurance plan or package. And then we factor it into the plan. It's important that it's accounted for and talked about.
For sure, very important, people. What's the optimal way to liquidate stocks options without tax trauma?
Yes. So, first off, an ideal client would be something that we call tax diversified. So, perhaps they've got money in a traditional 401k or IRA. They've got money in a Roth IRA. They've got money in a brokerage or savings account. So, all of these types of accounts that I'm listing are all taxed differently. And what that allows is if you have money in all three different types or three or four different types, you can actually take smart strategic withdrawals based on your tax bracket and control your taxability of your money. So that's what I like to see first is let's get a variety of types of accounts that are all treated differently by the IRS. And then we can set up a strategic tax withdrawal strategy. Now, as far as stocks and bonds are concerned, that's why I love having both and even options and there are cash is that we want to be able to be well diversified so that if and when we need to start pulling from the account, we can pick and choose from the exact asset that we want to sell or liquidate or a dividend we want to use to generate that income. And when you go direct and you buy individual stocks and bonds, and again, I wouldn't recommend somebody do this on their own. They want to work with a licensed advisor. But because we go direct, we have such a variety of assets to choose from when we're looking at a withdrawal strategy. We can get very detailed in our analysis and our advice when advising clients on how to turn their nest egg into an income stream.
Diversified portfolio indeed is the key answer. And let's talk about the strategic exit planning. What specific non financial prep should start 24-month pre exit?
Yeah, so I talked about this a little bit already, but again, the non-financial aspects are checking in with your loved ones and yourself and really revisiting your values and your purpose and making sure you're aligned. Now, I understand that somebody's not going to be able to map out the next 30 years of their life, but prior to retirement, I recommend somebody if they're eligible and can take a sabbatical or an extended vacation, Maybe they take 2 to 4 weeks off and they don't go anywhere. They stay home like they were retired and they start test driving retirement a little bit so that they can get a feel for what their life is going to look like as far as a non-financial checklist there. So I would recommend that first, and then obviously working with a wealth advisor on their financial planning checklist to make sure all of those categories are lined up.
What critical work knowledge should be documented now to negotiate a phase exit?
So what critical knowledge should they
Should
look at? Is that what you're asking?
documented, yes.
Documented. Yeah. So you clearly want to have um, a financial plan. A financial plan will allow to have everything organized in one place. So when we build out financial plans, of course, we're talking about assets and liabilities and net worth, but we also talk about estate planning and wills and trusts, and health insurance, right? Social security, making sure that you have all of that information documented, itemized, and in one safe, secure place so that you know where it is. And then ultimately your heirs know where it is. And so it's all, I'm not saying you necessarily have to consolidate everything with one company, but you need to have a financial plan that is documented. And most importantly, that financial plan needs to be updated and reviewed regularly, at least 2 to 4 times a year. As your life changes, you want to update that financial plan and have all of that documentation in good order.
How can corporate skills be repackaged into mentoring board roles that feel impactful, Mr. Jake?
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So I see many people do this. And so upon retirement, you're right. We might have a client that has served at a high level in an executive capacity. Well, now they can start transferring some of those skills and knowledge onto nonprofit boards, right? So maybe they join a nonprofit board and they get involved with helping a nonprofit become more effective. Or maybe they even consult for their prior company or a company in a similar industry. Sometimes I have clients actually make more money in retirement purely working in a 1099 capacity using their 20, 30, 40 years of knowledge to advise other companies on what they know, what they've learned over the years. So I think the nonprofit world, educating, the future generation of their new corporate leaders of the company that they left, and then also maybe just giving back to the community, whether that's education to college or high school students, and helping prepare them for the real world. I think those are three great opportunities that they can use those skills as they approach or enter retirement.
Mr. Jake, why do marriages fracture post retirement and how do proactively design partnership dynamics?
Yeah, they call it, Daniel, the gray divorce. And it's a real thing that, people are used to having their own lives. And then when you are all of a sudden disrupting your partner's life because you decided to retire, which had nothing maybe to do with them, you've got to get back on the same page with your loved one and your spouse. And so here's what happens, right? You get married in college, outside of college, early in your careers. You have a couple kids, and then your life revolves around those kids, and then those kids are grown and gone, and they start having lives of their own. So then you're an empty nester, but you're still working. But the problem is, once you retire as an empty nester, now it's just you and your spouse, and you want to be very clear and hopefully rekindle that love and that passion that you have for each other. And the key thing, Daniel, I would advise people to do is have an open conversation, not an emotionally charged one. When both of you are not upset or scared, just when you're both can be level headed, sit down and talk about what's next for the two of you, and what is important to you and what's not important. And make sure that you're on the same page. And don't do this just once, do this often and check in with each other and make sure that you stay aligned because it can be very bumpy if you're not careful.
Mr. Jake, as you helping driven professionals align wealth with purpose as an author too, what are your short term and long term goals?
For me as an author and a wealth advisor, so I just want to keep impacting our clients' lives, right? My mission at Falcon Wealth Advisors is to enhance our clients' lives. I love doing that through enhancing their financial literacy and explaining exactly what their financial plan means to them. So, like you, Daniel, I have a podcast out there called Upticks. I love getting my book, Retiring Right, in as many hands as possible. And then I love meeting with and advising, whether they're current or old or new clients, and helping people and building out my team at Falcon Wealth Advisors. And so that's what's next for me. And if I can wake up and I get to do that every day, well, I consider that a good day.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Jake, and looking forward for more and more success for sure. And can you give a piece of advice for those people out there who want to be an author as well as your profession?
Sure. Yeah. So wanting to be an author, be patient. It took a long time to get my book to a place where I felt confident putting it out in the public. I would recommend that you time block and spend time every day writing or editing, and working on it, whether that's real early or in the evening where you can be clear and focused. Work with other professionals that do this all the time, right? Whether that's editors or publishers, or just find someone to lean on to help guide you through it. You don't have to go at it alone. There's a lot of help out there. And recognize whatever you have to say, it's probably important. So be proud of it, and honor it and do it. Now, for those people in the wealth management or wealth advisor business, I think you've got to continue to define what your North Star is and make sure that your team is aligned with that. And ultimately, it's about listening to clients, and figuring out what's important to them, and then being able to translate your knowledge into a language that they can understand. And that's how you can impact people's lives. And that's what we work really hard to do at Falcon Wealth Advisors.
Thank you for your advice, Mr. Jake. And what psychological trick breaks the cycle of delaying retirement out of fear?
Yeah, I think the best thing to break the cycle is to meet and create a financial plan. That's going to alleviate a lot of that stress, because if you can look at it and see the projections aren't as bad as you're thinking, or maybe they are as bad as you're thinking, but at least you have some action steps to take to improve your situation. That's what's going to help break that psychological. And let's be clear, there's no shame in this. The baby boomers out there, Daniel, they don't have retirement role models to look up to, because their parents' generation, first off, many of them had pensions, and so they didn't have to save a large nest egg in a 401k. And
Yes.
sadly, their life expectancy wasn't as long as it is today for people. So they've got two things that they're up against. They have to save and plan their own retirement, and then they also are living longer. And so that's why there's fear here. And so meeting with a chartered retirement planning counselor, meeting with a wealth advisor that's licensed, that can give you some good advice and crunch those numbers, that acts in a fiduciary capacity with you, that's going to help alleviate a lot of those fears. But don't let somebody talk you into a product or anything like that. Just be very clear and transparent. Know what you're paying for and what you're getting. And that hopefully will help break that psychological delay in retirement.
Mr. Jake, how do you translate corporate salaries into actual post working spending needs?
Yeah. So the goal here, Daniel, is we want to replace that salary. So if somebody's making $200,000 a year and they're living very comfortably off of that, my goal, where I typically like to start, is like, how do we generate $200,000 from your portfolio? And we do that in a variety of ways. First off, one of the most important things we do is we don't want to have anything that a client needs to access within the next 5 years in the stock market, ideally 10. So for that, we use cash and bonds, right? We want to make sure that we've got a bond ladder that's generating interest so that they can weather market cycles as they present themselves. Then we'll use dividend paying stocks. Maybe we'll use options for approved clients to hopefully generate enough income off of the portfolio to replace that $200,000 salary that I talked about today. Now, that's not always the case, and that certainly can be okay. Sometimes clients need to access some of their principal. We just want to plan on that, and we want to monitor it, and we want to invest the portfolio with intention and be very clear about what the objective is, what the target rate of return is, so that hopefully we can help our clients achieve their goals. That's a good question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jake. And share a story where someone transformed from directionless retiree to purposeful and core careerist.
Yeah, I mean, I actually see this happen a lot. Many clients will come into my office nervous about it, but I'm telling you, once they have that plan and we can show them the amount of dividends that they're earning from their stocks and the interest from the bonds, Daniel, it's like this tremendous weight has been lifted from their shoulders, and they start to free up. And oftentimes, actually, what's interesting is that clients will actually start to spend less money when they know they have plenty, which is very interesting because then they're not focused on it so much and they're not worried about it. And they recognize that their purpose doesn't revolve around buying a new car every year or whatever that may be. And so that's really the stories that I've loved seeing, is that really alleviating those fears by creating a plan, going over investments, going over the performance, and not using annuities, not using products, but being very clear and transparent. That's when I love lifting that weight off of our clients' shoulders so that they can plan for and retire with confidence.
Again, very well said, Mr. Jake. Very
Thank you.
well said. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in fourth season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its fourth season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Jake, what's the one action corporate employees should take this week to start retiring right?
Thank you, Daniel. And I say this a lot. I say invest with intention. There's a lot that goes behind that. Invest your time, invest your money, meet with a wealth advisor or a chartered retirement planning counselor, ideally, and start planning for it. It's exciting. It can be really fun. It doesn't have to be scary. So invest your time, money, all of it with intention.
Mr. Jake Falcon, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through Retiring Right. And we are hoping for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or your business itself?
Yes, thank you so much, Daniel. Absolutely. So again, Retiring Right is out there on Amazon and where you buy great books. I've got a podcast called Upticks. It's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple iTunes. And if you got any questions for me, just feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. It's at Jake_Falcon_CRPC. Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jake Falcon, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself, more and more empowering books, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Jake Falcon, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's fun being on your show.
More to come, people. See you soon.